Hello everybody, Tyron the Guy 3 here. Welcome back to Pokemon Fanfic of the Pokemon Universe, Episode 14, Twilight Cave, a Goddess of Wonder. This episode, I really liked writing this episode. Like, at first when writing this episode, I was sort of just like, I'm writing this episode specifically so it can be an episode that will be in the way of the next episode, because the next episode I put a lot more focus into originally. So at first, this episode came off as, okay, I'm writing this episode more or less because I have to. But then as I started making the story more, it started becoming more of an episode that I wanted to make, and it started becoming a lot better. And then towards the end, I was really just in depth to it, because I basically made it a Coda's development episode with Anne, the new character, joining them for that one, so it was really good to make. So, the episode begins with our heroes and they're chilling on a field. They're chilling on a field and Coda checks the map and he's like really shocked because there's an area that he wants to go to that's nearby. The area is known as the Twilight Cave and it's inside of a mountain. Like, the cave is inside the mountain. And Luna actually points out which mountain it is because she's like, oh, you mean that one, the one we're looking at? And Coda's like, yeah, I really want to go there. And Trent just flat out says no. And then everybody just falls down, and Coda's like really upset about it because he's like, he wants to take a lot of pictures of the Pokemon that are in that cave because it's known to be one of the wonders of the Gaeza region, and it's also known to have a deity there known as the Goddess of Wonder. So at that point, Trent's like, I really don't care. We're this close to Alden Town. I want to just go ahead and head to Alden Town. So Coda gets upset, and then Anne wants to go as well. And Luna's like, hey, Trent, stop being a jerk. Let's just let Coda go ahead and go to the cave. And then Trent's like, fine, whatever, but I don't want to go. So Trent stays behind. And then Luna's like, hey, I really don't want to go either. I'll just go ahead and train with you. So Luna and Trent are going to be training for the entirety of this episode. But Coda's like, doesn't want to go alone because he's afraid of the Pokemon in there and the fact that the Pokemon may eat him or kill him or worse. So at that point, Anne is like, hey, I'm bored and it sounds like fun. I'll go with you. So at this point, it's Coda and Anne. They'll be the ones that this episode primarily revolves around. They have the focus of this episode, while Trent and Luna stay behind and train. So while that's happening, they go ahead and decide to head towards the mountain. And they agree that they'll come back at sundown, so they leave off. And when they leave off, they walk to the edge of the mountain because the entrance isn't at the bottom. It's like somewhere on the side at the top. So while they're on the mountain and they're walking, they head towards the entrance, but before they make it to the entrance, they hear something. They hear this rumbling, and what the rumbling is a bunch of golem rolling down the mountain. So Anne makes up an idea of how they can still make it to the entrance without getting crushed. And she jumps off the cliff of the mountain, and Coda's like, whoa, are you crazy? And he hesitates at first, but Anne persuades him to do it as well. So he winds up jumping off, and when they both end up jumping off the mountain, Anne tells Caterpie to use string shot in order to reel them both back, so that they end up getting held by like a bungee of silk. So then they climb up the rest of the mountain, and Coda almost has a heart attack based on everything that just went down. But now that the golem have passed, they can go through the entrance. Once they go through the entrance, the cave looks more or less like a normal cave. It's got like a bunch of shiny little rocks and stuff, and they see like Swoobat and Sableye that are eating the rocks, and a bunch of Diglett that are just burrowing through the various parts of the cave. And Coda takes a picture of some of the Swoobat, but the Swoobat end up hating the Flash and end up attacking him, and the Tailo tries to back the Swoobats away. So then Anne gets a little disappointed and is like, wow, this cave is kind of small to be a wonder of Gaeza region. And even Coda gets a little upset too. He's like, yeah, this is sort of a bust. I expected this cave to be a lot bigger. So then, out of disappointment, Coda was just sort of sitting around, looking around. He picks up one of the rocks and throws it towards a puddle that's in the cave. And when the rock falls into the puddle, it doesn't just stop at a ground. It actually like sinks inside, and Coda notices, hey, that's kind of weird. So, he also tells Magnemite to use flash so that they could see inside the cave. He tells Magnemite to use flash towards the water, and they notice that the puddle wasn't a puddle. It's actually way deeper than it's supposed to be. It's a waterway, but it's a small waterway. And Koda's like, I wonder if there is another side of the cave that's on the other side that we can go to that's the true Twilight Cave. So then Koda calls out Whooper. Whooper, uses water gun on Koda. It's a running gag. And then laughs. But then, after that, Koda asks Whooper to jump inside the waterway so that it can swim its way to see if it finds a second entrance. Freaking Whooper does this, and Ann tells Caterpie to use string shot around Whooper so, they can tug at the string so Whooper can come back when it needs to. Whooper jumps into the waterway and bullshit. It just, plays around. It sees a bunch of other water Pokemon and plays around with them and just swims around all happishly just in the water, not giving any crap. Then Whooper gets the silk tugged from the string shot. Whooper swims back and goes to the entrance, and Koda's like, hey, did you find anything? And Whooper just happily shakes his head no. And Koda and Ann fall over and they're like, hey, what have you been doing this whole time? So it's just really funny. After that, Ann thinks of an idea and she starts stomping on the ground, and Koda's like, why are you stomping on the ground? Ann basically states that, hey, we saw Diglett in this cave earlier. Since Diglett have the ability to make the land soft, maybe they've weakened this area enough to where we can just jump into the water, or we can just make a larger entrance. So Koda then jumps up and jumps down, and the ground was already weakened enough, so when Koda lands with that jump, they all break in and they fall inside the waterway. And while they're in the waterway, they swim to the area. They swim to an area that they believe is a surface. And Ann and Caterpie are almost to the surface, but they see that Koda's pants just got bitten by a Carvanha. So then Caterpie ends up using string shot on the Carvanha, and Whooper ends up using water gun on the Carvanha's face, and the Carvanha releases its grip. But Koda's out of air because he's been trying to struggle a way out of that Carvanha, so he sort of passes out. They wind up getting to land, and Ann ends up doing CPR, not the mouth one, but the little hand presses. Koda spits up some water, and Ann tells Koda that, hey, look, we made it to Twilight Cave. It's just as beautiful as the rumors say. Koda wakes up, and they see that Twilight Cave looks really beautiful. It's way bigger than that first half of the cave they were in. The rocks are way more beautiful, and they're shiny, and some of them look like crystals, and there's a bunch of Pokemon just everywhere, just chilling and enjoying. Meanwhile, we cut to the battle between Trent and Luna as they're training. And Luna gets a little distracted in the battle while Trent is battling. He's using Eevee. He tells Eevee to use Swift on Luna's Kaitini. Since Luna's not giving any commands, Kaitini ends up getting hit by the Swift. And Trent's like, hey, what are you doing? And Luna's like, oh, my bad. It's almost sundown, and Koda and Ann aren't back yet. I hope they're okay. So basically, she's just worried about them. And Trent's like, yeah, don't worry about them. They're fine. So then they end up getting back to their battle. Then we cut back to Ann and Koda, and while Koda's taking pictures everywhere, Ann is discovering a lot of the Pokemon, and her and Caterpie are just looking at how some of the Pokemon interact and things like that. It's really nice. So then after that, Koda and Ann start looking for the goddess, because remember the goddess was rumored to be in the cave. So once they try to look for the goddess, they are like, I guess we can't find it. We might as well just head back now. Unfortunately, while they're about to head back, they hear a large roar, and Tyranitar comes out from the shadows, and he is pissed. And he begins to attack Koda and Ann. And it appears that though Tyranitar basically sees them as intruders. And since he sees them as intruders, he wants to, get rid of the intruders. And then after that, Gigalith shows up as well. A Gigalith shows up from the shadows, and he basically wants to attack Ann and Koda for basically the same reason. They're trying to leave out the same way they came in, the waterway that they came in. Unfortunately, Gigalith and Tyranitar keep attacking them with Dark Pulse and Rock Blast. So then Ann basically tells Koda that they have to calm the Pokemon down. Koda doesn't know how the hell they're supposed to do that. So Ann says, hey, we're going to battle them so we can calm them down. She tells Caterpie to use String Shot towards Tyranitar, and it does work for a while. Tyranitar stuck, but Tyranitar then burst out of the String Shot with its muscles. So yeah, it's getting a little hard. So then they try to escape, and Caterpie tries to use String Shot to reel its way to another half of the cave, but Gigalith quickly uses Rock Blast on Caterpie and ends up getting hit. And since it's a rock type attacking Caterpie's bug, Caterpie's knocked out. So yeah. So then Ann tries to tell Koda that, hey, it's up to you. If we don't get out of here, they're gonna kill us. So Koda's like, but I'm not strong enough. I'm not Ann or I'm not Luna or Trent. I can't battle like them. I'm not that skilled. And Ann just basically keeps trying to persuade him to battle because it's the only way they're going to escape. Koda hesitates a lot, but then sees that Ann and Caterpie are weakened from that whole fight. So Koda then finally steps up and releases all his Pokemon, Wooper, Magnemite, and Taylor respectively. So then after that, he tells Wooper to use Water Gun on Tyranitar, and it's about to hit. Unfortunately, Gigalith comes in with an attack, and they have to dodge it. So then afterwards, he tells Taylor to grab Wooper and fly up into the air. Once they're all up into the air, they dodge several different attacks, and then he tells Wooper to use Water Gun on Tyranitar again. It hits him this time and does a lot of damage, obviously, because, water type attack hits rock type Pokemon. Gigalith then tries to use Power Gem on Wooper and Taylor. Thankfully, Magnemite ends up using Flash and then ends up blinding him, so the Power Gem attack misses. Then Wooper uses Water Gun on the ground, and when he uses Water Gun on the ground, Tyranitar slips on the water and ends up falling. So things are actually working out pretty well. So then they try to escape even further. Unfortunately, Gigalith comes in, and Tyranitar ends up using Earth Power, which knocks them all on the ground. And then Gigalith ends up using Rock Blast while Koda was trying to run away, but Koda ends up getting hit on the leg with that attack and takes a lot of damage. So Koda can't move, and Ann's on the ground as well. So Tyranitar is about to hit them with a takedown. Magnemite comes in, intercepts, and then he learns the move Supersonic to confuse Tyranitar. Now that Tyranitar is confused, he winds up attacking Gigalith, and the two end up in a big scuffle. So then at that point, they try to go ahead and head out. Ann tries to carry Koda because, Koda's injured. So there's no real way they can escape. So they try to get out that way. And when they are so close to the waterway to get out, Tyranitar starts to break up his confusion, and him and Gigalith go back to attacking them. And then Koda and Ann are almost out. Unfortunately, Pupitar's and Drillbur show up as well as Boldor. It's Boldor and Pupitar. They end up showing up in several different hordes because they want to defend the cave too. So they're basically cornered. And when they're cornered, it looks like it's all over for Ann and Koda. But then, out of the water comes Milotic. But it's a shiny Milotic, so it's blue. And they start noticing, hey, it's Milotic, and Koda thinks that Milotic's going to attack them too, but it then winds up doing the exact opposite. It actually ends up singing, and that sends Tyranitar, Boulder, the Pupitars, and Gigalith, and the others to sleep. So all the Pokemon are asleep. Then at that point, Koda returns all his Pokemon and returns Caterpie, and they end up heading to the waterway so that they can swim away. Unfortunately, with the battle that took place between Tyranitar, Gigalith, and our two heroes, that caused a lot of the rocks to become unstable, so they start falling. And when they start falling, it starts shaking up the entire cave. And then the rocks end up falling in the water, and some of them hit Koda and Ann, and they get knocked unconscious. So they're unconscious underwater right now. Just then, Koda opens his eyes and wakes up, and he notices that his leg from the rock blast attack is healed, and he's perfectly fine, and he's awake. He thought it was Ann that was the one that brought him to surface and healed him. But Ann's okay too. She just woke up around the same time Koda woke up. So they're trying to wonder who exactly saved them. And they basically confirmed that it must have been Milotic that saved them. And at that point, Anne basically theorizes that Milotic was the goddess of wonder in the Twilight Cave. So then at that point, Koda's like, yeah, that makes sense. It was beautiful, and it did heal us and save us. Then Koda quickly realizes that he didn't take a picture of the goddess for the scrapbook, so he quickly grabs his camera and runs to the waterway, but unfortunately Milotic isn't there anymore. And the waterway is a lot darker now, which means the rocks have caved in, which means it's completely blocked off. Like, they can no longer go back to that area of the cave ever again. So Anne basically confirms that it was a once-in-a-lifetime trip. And that was basically it. Koda gets upset that he didn't take the picture of Milotic, but Anne basically tries to cheer him up, and she states that, hey, it was probably better that you didn't take that picture. And Koda gets confused at first, but Anne explains, hey, some things are probably just better to see in real life rather than just in a picture. Koda's still trying to understand that concept a little bit, but he kind of gets it. So after this point, we cut back to Trent and Luna, and this time they're done battling, and Luna's just like really worried about Anne and Koda. She's trying to see if they're okay or not. So she freaks out and she's like, we have to go to that cave and see if they're okay. And Trent's like, they're fine. But before he even says they're fine, Anne is like, you don't even know if they're fine. And Trent's like, yes, I do. And she's like, how do you know they're fine? And Trent says, because they're standing right behind you. Luna turns around and Koda and Anne are right there. Luna passes out a little bit and then comes back up and is like, hey, we were worried. Where the heck were you guys? So they basically couldn't tell them most of what happened. So then they asked, did you guys see the goddess? And before Koda says, yeah, we did, Anne quickly covers Koda's mouth and is like, no, we didn't see any goddess. It doesn't exist. You were right, Trent. And Trent's like, yeah, see, I knew it. And then Koda whispers to Anne and is like, hey, why are we keeping Milotic, the goddess, and most of the cave a secret? Anne basically was like, hey, the only reason that this all happened, the Tyranitar and Gigalith attacked them, is because we were basically trespassing. And if we start telling a lot of people about it, people will start coming to the cave. So let's just keep it a secret between you and me. They do still have the pictures from the cave, though, and Luna does look at those. But as far as the goddess goes, they decided to just go ahead and keep that under wraps. So at that point, Anne thanks Koda for being brave and fighting in order to help keep them alive. And Koda thanks Anne for helping him get the courage to fight. And after that, Koda looks at his pictures, and he's proud that he got to go to the cave and, discover a lot of things in that cave. After that, Trent brags about the fact that he won the battle between him and Luna in their training battle. And Luna's like, hey, that was only because I was distracted. So then Trent keeps bragging, and Luna keeps chasing Trent because she's going to hit him in the head. And Anne and Koda both laugh, and the episode ends right there. Like I said, towards the end, I was really starting to like the episode. I was liking where it was going. I love the fact that it's major character development for Koda, as well as Anne in that case. And I love doing episodes that don't have anything to do with Trent, ironically. Don't get me wrong, I like episodes that have to do with Trent. He's the main character, and Luna. But it was good to break away from that for a little bit. I guess you can say it was just a moment of grace, a grace period, if you will. So yeah, it was a nice little distraction episode. It's not completely filler either, because Magnemite learned Supersonic in this episode, so that was kind of cool. And yeah, it was just good. It was a really chill episode, and I made it because, like I said, a lot of the major episodes, or at least the gym battle episodes, usually happen within the 10s or the 5s. So like episode 15, obviously, or episode 10 or episode 25 and things like that. Like major gym battle episodes happen later. So I just wanted to make a really chill episode for now because, why not? And it was a really good episode and was great character development and interaction between Ann and Coda. But the next episode is titled Episode 15, Sora to the Skies, a battle in midair. With that said, I'll see you all then, everybody. Tyrone the God 3 out.